I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Welcome back to the PC Engine Files, and this is P-47, the Freedom Fighter, or also known as P-47 Thunderbolt, which is only part of the confusion surrounding this game. So today on the PC Engine Files, I'm going to try to clear things up a little bit. First of all, if you look at the Wikipedia entry for P-47 Thunderbolt, it says that it was released for a wide variety of platforms, everything from the Commodore Amiga to the ZX Spectrum to the Atari ST to the TurboGrafx 16. Now, they may have meant the PC Engine, but they definitely don't mean the TurboGrafx 16 because this never came out in the United States. Unless you're referring to the arcades, because you might have seen P-47 Thunderbolt in an arcade if you were lucky. I never did. Maybe Galloping Ghost in Chicago would have this game, but I've never seen it at any convention I've been to or any arcade that I went to as a kid or any beercade that I've been to as an adult. So as far as I knew before I played this game for the PC Engine Files, it didn't exist. But it did definitely come out in Japan as P-47, the Freedom Fighter on PC Engine. So there is that. Also, if you look this game up on a list of TurboGrafx games, which includes both PC Engine and TurboGrafx in one compiled list, you will see that it says unreleased in North America, which is correct. March 20th, 1989 in Japan, which is also correct. But if you click on P-47, it doesn't take you to the entry for the game. Instead, you get an entry for the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. And what is the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt? Well, dear viewer, I'm glad you asked. It is a World War II era fighter aircraft produced by the US from 1941 through 1945, and it was a pretty powerful one for the time. It had 8 50 caliber machine guns and a fighter bomber ground attack role that it could carry 5 rockets or a bomb load of up to 2,500 pounds, and when fully loaded it could weigh up to 8 tons, making it one of the heaviest fighters of World War II. It was designed around the powerful Pratt & Whitney double Wasp engine R2800, also used by 2 U.S. Navy and Marine Corps fighters known as the Grumman F-6F Hellcat and the Vought F-4U Corsair. The Thunderbolt was considered to be effective as a short to medium range escort fighter in high altitude air-to-combat and ground attack in both the European and Pacific theater. I realize that's a lot of information to digest, but suffice it to say, the P-47 Thunderbolt was a legend in its own time and instrumental in the Allied victory in World War II, which makes it a natural to base a video game around it, but unfortunately it's a little bit too realistic when they talk about the fact that it could weigh up to 8 tons, because moving this airplane around in P-47, the video game, whether you call it Thunderbolt or Freedom Fighters, is not an easy thing to do. You are not highly maneuverable. In fact, I would say even when you pick up the speed power-ups, you're a little bit on the slow side. And your weapons, despite the powerful Republic P-47 Thunderbolt Armada, 850 caliber machine guns, and up to 2,500 pounds of bombs, sure doesn't feel like it's that strong when you're trying to attack the enemies, whether they're ground-based enemies or air combat enemies. You feel like you're throwing rocks at tanks and shooting peas at planes. This is not the powerful shoot 'em up that you might expect going in. I'm knocking it a little bit by telling you all of that, and yet there are some things about P-47 the Freedom Fighter that I really appreciate. The graphics are nicely detailed, the parallax scrolling is visually appealing, the soundtrack is actually quite nice. I could enjoy just listening to it without even playing this game. And there is some strategy involved to the power-ups that you select on the screen. For example, I found that the M, which gives you a spread of missiles, was worth attaining and retaining because it allows you to hit more enemies on the screen at once. But you might prefer the T power-up, which I'll call Twin, because it shoots a spread of forward shots that can also hit ground-based enemies. Or you may prefer B for Bomb because it definitely does the most damage to those ground-based enemies. And in terms of, dare I say, realism for a combat game, there is something to be said for the fact that P-47 Thunderbolt was considered to be both an air attack and a ground attack vehicle for fighting combat in World War II. It did both bombing runs and air-to-air combat missions, so they are actually using the P-47 in the same way it would have been used during World War II. Now, one of the things that I can't figure out about this game is no matter which weapon I select for these big enemy planes that are at the end of stages, I can't seem to find any that can take it out, no matter how much of a pounding I give them. And I'm not sure if you're not supposed to be able to beat these boss planes. I mean, it looks like you're doing damage, but you don't get a damage meter of any kind, so you can't tell how much damage you're doing. That's a deficit on this game, is a boss meter would be helpful if you're actually supposed to beat these bosses, and some sort of indication that you're doing damage would be helpful as well. If it like started to destruct or started to smoke or just did anything, flash to indicate that it was being hit. I mean, you just pound on it and you can't tell you're doing anything at all. Frustrating. And yet, something about P-47 just keeps bringing me back to it. Especially the second stage, the sunset, is very colorful and visually appealing. It's a little tough to see the low-flying enemies because of the striations of the color. They can be kind of obscured in the different shades. But I think that's actually part of the fun, is that would probably be the same effect you would have if you were flying an evening mission and dealing with the sun being in a certain direction. You might have difficulty seeing planes coming from that direction because of the glare or because of the sun's color lighting up the sky in a certain way that might camouflage enemy aircraft. So I feel like there's attention to detail in certain areas of P-47, and in other areas it's like maybe you're trying a little too hard to be realistic and not giving the player enough information to work with. It is a very strange combination. But I'm gonna say I'd put this one on the recommended list to try it, at least through emulation or SSD 3 or whatever way you would like to experience this game. And as for the value, well, it was never sold in North America, so I can't give you that information because that doesn't exist, despite what Wikipedia might have you believe. But I can at least see what it's currently going for in eBay auctions. There's a sponsored copy that looks complete for $25. One that's free shipping for $25.99, also complete. So it looks like we've got a range here where the median is 25, the low is 20. It can go as high as 40. You can definitely get it loose for 25 bucks. That's not hard to do. And maybe it's worth it at that price. It's a big ask for just one game when you could get so many games with 20 bucks, but then again, maybe you're a PC Engine collector and you just want one game. You're getting one game at a time trying to build a whole set, which I can certainly relate to because there's parts of my collection that I'm working on one game at a time. So if you want to plunk down 20 to 30 bucks for P-47, I wouldn't say that's a mistake. I would say it's an investment. Well, I hate the word investment when it comes to classic video games, but I mean, you are putting money into something when you're putting more than 20 bucks into it, but you're not buying it for investing like stocks or bonds. At least I hope not. What you're doing is investing a certain amount of your resources into a specific game for you to enjoy, not investing to appreciate it in value. I mean, if you really want to hoard P-47, the Freedom Fighter, go for it. You're going to spend 25 bucks a copy, and there's not an unplentiful amount of copies. It is quite numerous, even at 25 bucks. There's a full page of listings here on eBay. You could get one now, you could get one tomorrow, you could get one the next day, and you would not run out of copies of P-47 anytime soon. It's maybe not the most common game at $25, but it's not uncommon either. So bear that in mind. You might actually be able to get a bargain for it if you wait, because it doesn't seem like there's any shortage of it. The only way you're going to pay a premium is if you buy one sealed, and then it looks like you're going to spend over $100. This missile mission, I mean, again, maybe that's realistic for World War II, that you'd be dealing with that many surface-to-air missiles coming straight at you, but holy shit, is that a lot to deal with at one time. But given that you get this excellent music and this sunset backdrop, it's really cool. I'm hard-pressed to strike a balance here. I want to tell you that P-47 is incredibly frustrating, but I also want to tell you it's really interesting at the same time. If you're a shoot-'em-up fan, you're probably going to really like this one. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't mind obtuse, difficult gameplay without many visual clues as to how good or poorly you're doing, this may be right up your alley. I think my biggest complaint is that you just can't skip the game over music. You have to sit there and listen to it. If you press the run button, it does nothing, and I don't understand that choice. But otherwise, I would say give P-47 the Freedom Fighter a try. And as always, thank you for watching.